Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter and a senior advisor over at the White House, has decided she will wind down her fashion company so she can pursue a career in public policy. Our Christina Alessi is joining us right now. You've been following the late-breaking developments. I understand she's put out a formal statement, Christina.
That's right, Wolf, and I just got a call from a source who told me that Ivanka Trump is going to address the staff of her company later this afternoon. Look, at the end of the day, this was a brand that really faced a lot of criticism for many, many reasons. But sources close to the decision tell me that this was driven by her desire to stay in public policy, to stay in Washington, D.C., and that the company had to operate under restrictions and limitations because of her role in the White House, and that it didn't make sense to keep the company operating under those restrictions if she wasn't going to return eventually. But that said, we can't ignore that this brand has been criticized. She's been criticized for keeping ownership of the company while also serving as a White House advisor, raising all kinds of questions about potential conflicts of interest and how she would address them. The brand has also been a target for critics of the Trump administration and its policies. There was a boycott one women's group started after the Access Hollywood tape became public, calling on people to boycott Ivanka Trump goods, which were, by the way, targeted towards female empowerment, and that was the message behind the brand. A lot of feminists saw that as sort of a hypocrisy, and that is just a few things that the brand was criticized for. And so now we see Ivanka deciding to shut it down. Look, it's unclear whether or not all of this criticism, all of this scrutiny affected the bottom line of the brand, because it is a public company. It does not release financial statements on a regular basis. All we can see is that on Ivanka Trump's financial disclosure form, that there was some payments coming from her company to Ivanka Trump personally. So you can assume that there was some profit coming out of the company, Wolf.
So Walter Shaw, question number one, help us understand, what were the limitations on her job in the White House that would have prevented her to keep running, the limitations as a result of the company that would have prevented her to keep her job in the White House?
Yeah, well, she had some pretty significant limitations. They had her, my understanding was, they had her recusing from any particular matter that could have an effect on her various businesses. Now, at a time when tariffs and a trade war are being discussed with China, that's pretty significant because she had a lot of trademarks over there in China. And although she's had some difficulties with sales in parts of the United States, places like New York and San Francisco, she apparently was doing quite well with her business in China. And so right there, that's a fairly significant category of things that she would have to stay out of if she continued to hold this business.
So it's, from what I'm understanding, part of the issue that she had, it was the limitations that were put on her company because of ethics rules, and that would be one of the reasons why she had to drop the company.
Well, let me be fair to Ivanka Trump. She did more than her father or her husband did. One of the things she did was that she negotiated a deal where she'd be getting a fixed fee for her licenses instead of a profit-based revenue, so that she would have less significant conflicts of interest. It doesn't completely resolve them, but it means that now it would take more than a slight fluctuation in profits to affect her income. So that's a good thing. In terms of the things that I've seen reported about her having put limitations on the company, those I've always felt were kind of nonsense, because you either have the financial interest or you don't. Whether or not you have control over the company is meaningless. And the limitation she put on the company is that she'd put it in a trust and that day-to-day operations would be run by somebody else. But that's completely meaningless from a conflict of interest standpoint, because she still derived revenue from it. So I want to be fair again, she did do some significant things, but they had to do mostly with the type of revenue she was going to get and her recusals from her own activities in government. But in terms of the limitations on the company, those were just window dressing and nonsense to begin with.
Quickly, with this decision to drop her company, does this affect her brothers at all? and their Trump businesses?
Well, I know that she has an investment in the Trump International Hotel that she's keeping, so she may have a number of other business entanglements with her family. I don't know that any of them were necessarily involved in her product line. You know, one question about her shutting it down is what they've said is they're not going to renew their licensing agreements. But I imagine that the various licensing agreements end at different times. So I don't know that this is going to be a clean and abrupt break. They need to be very careful in making sure she continues to stay out of anything that could affect the licenses that she still has until they run out.